Were you surprised that Donald Trump won the election?
No.
Why do you think he won?
People were angry at the what they call it, the state, the swamp, ineffective government, that people wanted kind of more pro-growth and pro-business policies, that they didn't want to be lectured to on social policies continuously. I think it's the lecturing part of it. It's the social superiority. It's the my way or the highway. I traveled around the country. I felt it wherever I went.
There's a sense of gloom out there about the economy. Do you understand that?
I do understand it because I think there are a lot of legitimate concerns that Americans have. For example, ineffective government, they're angry about it. They're angry about immigration. There are people with legitimate issues.
Despite lower unemployment, a calming of inflation, and a soaring stock market, even he says he's, quote, cautiously pessimistic about the economy. And as chairman and CEO of the largest bank in America, it matters what Jamie Dimon has to say about things.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today, I want to talk to you about the American economy. I'm going to talk to you from two specific different points of view. First of all, raise your hand if you can help me out with this question. Who remembers the store shelves being empty during COVID? And how many of you remember the gasoline shortage and rationing days of the 70s? The first number in your license plate was either odd or even, and that's when you could buy gas on particular days based on your license plate number. How many of you remember all that? How many of you remember when mortgage rates were well above 10%, anywhere from 10 to 18%? That goes back quite a ways, but my fear is that we're coming back into an area near that again. I'm not going to lay blame to the political system to be entirely the fault here, but what we want to get into here is, let's start out with one of the layoffs from the federal government agency, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They terminated approximately a dozen contractors earlier today. They stopped their work, sent them home, canceled what they were doing, they're gone. They, at the same time, idled 1,700 regular workers that were employed by the U.S. government that were taxpayers like you and I. They're basically standing still. Whether they're getting paid or not, I've yet to find that out. It's news that came out just this morning, and this morning's financial news. And by the way, if I reference financial news, CNBC.com, you can pick it up on any web page. CNBC.com is reporting a lot of this. That was just one government agency that was shut down. I haven't got anything on the education department or anything else like that. Let's go on to manufacturing. We have a lot of large industries in this country, as you well know. Chevron being one of them. Chevron this morning announced they were laying off 9,000 people, approximately 20% of their employment. That was in one city, and there were vague references made to another city where there might be layoffs again. So it's looking like more than 20% of Chevron's staff. And by the way, Chevron, second largest oil company in the United States. A tire company called Bridgestone America is laying off 700 workers in their truck and bus radial tire plant located in La Verge, Tennessee. Tennessee, I'm sorry to hear about that. That's going to be a lot on your, but Bridgestone America, 700 people being laid off. That's according to the AP News. You can check that out. One of our sore subjects here is John Deere. John Deere has got quite a bit of controversy floating around about him. The right to repair acts that most of the farmers from our Midwest and our agricultural belt have brought against John Deere. John Deere fighting back, saying, yeah, the tractors are literally so complicated nowadays that they're run by GPS and by computers, and that, we don't want you getting in there and messing it all up. But there's lawsuits going back and forth, but I digress. As of yesterday's news, the agricultural equipment manufacturer has laid off nearly 1,000 workers, including 650 job cuts announced in June of last year, June of 2024. In recent news, and not to get political, just pointing the fact out, in recent news, the CEO of John Deere has gone head-on against President Trump and stated that he will not be forced into a situation that compromises his company or the financial wherewithal with his company, and has threatened to move his entire operation south of the border, which would mean far more layoffs. That's according to SAN.com. Another American company not having any numbers, but having that 3M Company, the conglomerate, has announced target layoffs as part of its efforts to streamline operations amid changing market conditions. That according to Reuters News, for anybody who wants to look it up and check facts. I'll try and remember to put all of the sources for this in the description, but you may not know who they're all pointed at. The scary one, the one that everyone needs to listen to, okay, is Boeing. Boeing's had a lot of problems lately, and Boeing went from being the gold standard of aircraft production to trying to compete with the European consortium called Airbus, to merging with McDonnell Douglas, and that merger started the downward spiral of them because Boeing, instead of managing their own company, allowed the McDonnell Douglas crew to come in and manage it, and since then there has been safety and quality productions, but has just announced that based on the failure of their Starship, problems that existed at the space station were found to be the least of the problems. When they got it on the ground, they found more. The probability of the astronauts making it back at the time was said that they would have most likely made it back. Most likely is not a good bet on me. It states here that the company's plan to reduce approximately 400 positions in its space launch systems, the SLS program, and the moon rocket program, and they're planning on doing those 400 cuts by April of this year. The decision is attributed to delays and rising costs associated with NASA's Artemis program. Boeing is providing affected employees with 60 days layoff notice. You know, I'm not going to poo-poo the 60-day notice, but if you're living in the rarefied air of being a rocket scientist, I don't think 60 days is going to be enough time to find a job. Nice try, but I don't see it happening. That, according to Reuters News, Reuters.com, for those that want to look it up. Let's step out of the manufacturing area. Let's step into the banking area for just a second. And I'm not going to name any specific banks. I just want to go right to what the Chairman Powell said this morning. And he said that hopes for the federal rate cuts dim, noting hot consumer price index that we're not quite there yet. That's being affected by a couple of things. Tariffs will be affecting that. Supply shortages will be affecting that. If any of that comes to fruition, that will definitely drive up the consumer price index. Everybody here that's listening to this program has been through COVID or been through some sort of shortage in their life where they've gone to the store to get something. There was nothing there, and they even said, I'd be willing to pay 10 times for whatever it was that you needed. You know, baby formula, diapers, toilet paper. Chairman Powell does not see the economy in a place where we can lower the consumer price index. Let's get into the service sectors. And a lot of these things, these are businesses that most of you either enjoy working with their services or provide services with them and whatnot. So let's talk first about Meta, formerly known as Facebook. According to their statement, and I just want to read it correctly here, the tech giant is implementing workforce reductions, focusing on removing low-performing employees following previous significant layoffs. I'm going to remind you that Mr. Zuckerberg, the person that is responsible for that note, so when he says that it's low-performing employees, I find it hard to believe that there's low-performing employees at one of the most strategic and one of the most advanced pages on the internet right now. But that's according to Business Inside, if you want to check that out. Microsoft, who I find far more credible, plans to reduce underperforming employees as part of a strategy to increase efficiency and adapt to technological changes. I'm not quite sure what all that means. My entire career in IT was based around Microsoft products, you know, a lot of other things too, but 99.9% of the people that wanted some sort of operating system within their networks wanted Microsoft. Very few wanted something else. That according to Business Insider again also. CNN, the media outlet that's had tough times in the past, all of the news reporting agencies, which CNN, I lump them right in with Fox and everybody else. They're more of a personality show than anything else. They're cutting 200 positions to focus on the digital platform. Basically what they're saying is that their TV host shows aren't really that popular anymore. So they're going to go to digital platform. That's according to businessinsider.com also. Now, this next one literally breaks my heart. Starbucks. The coffee chain has announced an upcoming layoff session in support of teams as part of the organization's restructuring. Now, a good friend of mine is a manager at the local Starbucks, the newest Starbucks in my city. He's a good friend because I met him there, not because I knew him before. Now, He tells me that they are planning on implementing some old school things to try and bring back the romance of the original Starbucks. Nowadays, they type into a computer what you want. It has a scanner. It scans your app on your phone to charge you, and it prints out labels, and the kids working there fill the orders according to the label and stick the label on the side of the cup for you or on the side of the food package, whatever it is. They're going to go back to handwritten notes for nostalgia. There are going to be some cuts, but I don't think it's going to happen in one of my stores. When I say one of my stores, when I stop to think about exactly where they are, I have 4 Starbucks within a 5-mile radius. Seems a little excessive, but up until now it seemed to be working. Now they're going to be cutting back, but the store I frequent is the newest store in my city, and their revenue, according to what I've heard, is 5 to 6 times their planned revenue. And so I don't see any layoffs coming there. But Starbucks, even a coffee chain, we're talking everything from aerospace industry here, folks, down to the cup of coffee you get on your way to work. Everyone's being affected. And then for most of you who use your credit card and you're at modern day events where you have to go in and they have the little white Stripe box that everybody knows, it seems to be run through Apple best. Stripe Payment Processing Company is going to be laying off 300 staff, mainly in the product and engineering development roles, to streamline their operation. They have a good product. Those last 2 were, by the way, were out of Business Insider.com. Now, not wanting to put a political spin on it, just trying to put the facts out there. There's going to be people that say I am. I'm just trying to be real about the numbers. Labor market disruptions. Sectors reliant on undocumented laborers such as agriculture, construction, hospitality, food processing are all, right at this point in time, reporting work shortages. I read a piece last week. I'll try and get, again, labeled down here for it. I read a piece that down in Texas where they always seem to have a building boom going on in housing. Every time I go there, there's like entire neighborhoods, like 200 to 300 houses being built on speculation. Nobody's bought them, but the builder's going to build them because he knows they're going to sell. People need them, and he can't wait to build them later. Well, I read a report someplace that said something like 50% of their work staff isn't showing up for work because they're afraid. Even the ones that are documented, that are here in the process, which now I understand, even if you're in the process, you're here legally, you've got your paperwork and you've been run through the court system, and they're saying, yep, we're going to process this, which could take up to a year or 2, so get a job and mind your own business. Those people are also being targeted by ICE raids. I remember when the roundups in Florida a couple of years ago shut down Governor DeSantis's fruit crop, and most of it was damaged in one way or another. There were massive orange shortages, and I'm an orange fan. I like oranges, orange juice, whatnot, and my store, my local supermarket stores were low on it. And if you could get it, it was usually had to be shipped in from California or someplace like that. So it was delayed in the process, may have been damaged. Housing is going to be the same way. Housing starts the permits are going to be out there. The orders are going to be there for all their wood and all the construction material and everything else, the block and everything. And there is going to be a shortage of people that are willing to work in the labor area there. I want to move on. That, according to, by the way, was Investopedia and Reuters News, both. And again, like I say, I'll try and get the clip for the part about Dallas that I had read last week. There's going to be some economic losses based on the undocumented people. Undocumented immigrants contribute billions in state, local, and federal taxes just due to the mere fact that they have money in their pocket and they have to spend it. And usually what they've got, because they're working for lower wages and working under less than ideal conditions, it usually means they're spending everything they have. They're not going to be spending in their local stores. They're not going to be buying clothes. They're not going to be going to a movie. They're not going to be getting popcorn and soda and milk and bread and meat at the local supermarket stores because they can't go to work. They're going to have to go out and find somebody else that's willing to employ them someplace else, possibly out of country or out of state. Deportations, removing these workers, is going to cost us money. It's going to cost us in the housing industry. It's going to cost us in food industry. It's going to cost us in transportation. And it is going to slow the economy. We are going to feel the effects of not having labor. Now, I live in an area that is known for its apple harvest. So I'm used to migrants coming through. A friend of mine has a farm. He also has like 20 house trailers on it. His wife and his oldest daughter refurbish them every spring with new furniture and new items for their convenience. And they come in, they live there, they do his apple farms, they do everything that they need to do, anything from planting to harvesting to cleaning and everything else. And then they move on to the next farm, the next product. His farm is busy half a year. They contribute to the local economy. They got money, they're going to spend it. Okay. Deportations are also going to lead to the foreclosures of homes and rentals and places that we, the people, own, because those people also need a place to live. That's going to lead, for those people that don't keep them on their farm, the ones that provide or point them towards local areas like college towns and farm towns where they can rent a room, or 4 or 5 of them can rent a room, those rooms aren't going to be rented anymore. Those homeowners, those business owners, those apartment owners are not going to have income coming in from them because they're not going to be there. That's going to be a pretty big thing, I think, for a lot of economy. If you stop and think how many migrants there are that do the dirty work that we, the people, don't want to do, everyone loses. It's not just on the farm. It's on everything else that the money that they make gets spent on. There's an economic cost for enforcement and the detention costs. And this number, I don't have it. For some reason, there's not a source that was applied with it. And again, I'll get that for you. Conducting mass deportations is expensive, it says, and costs range from anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000 per deportee for processing, detention, and removal expenses. And I'm sure that includes, like medical, food, places where they can sleep. They've got to be processed. They've got to be moved. It's not free to put them on a jet. It's not free for jet fuel to get them out to another country. It's not free to keep them in detention camps because there's electricity and whatnot. Just the same as you and I have bills to keep our homes alive, they have bills too. And it says here that there's and I heard the number was much larger, but according to the figures that I'm seeing this morning, studies estimate that removing all of the undocumented workers from our country, which this number says 10 to 11 million, I believe I've heard the current administration use the number 18, would reduce the U.S. gross domestic product by almost 6%. And that would run for decades. The American Action Forum was the one that put out those numbers, by the way. Even smaller scale deportations would still have a noticeable effect on it. We're looking at, when I say that the deportation of people, let's give some specifics. The agricultural area, the construction area, and hospitality. And I want to make sure I get all this right because there's some numbers in here. Undocumented immigrants constitute approximately 44% of the agricultural workforce. Mass deportations would lead to shortages and higher prices. It's only logical. Construction, and again, we're talking about new homes, businesses, anything, bridges, roads, everything. 23% of construction workers are undocumented. A disruption in that alone would stop projects, would delay timelines, could end up costing us even more if everything keeps getting delayed. Now, hospitality. All of us have been to a hotel. All of us have been to restaurants. All of us have been to parties or engagements where there were people that we knew were not American-born. They were immigrants. We saw them. There's no shame in that. But if you were to take everybody that ever worked in a hotel or in a hospital or in a restaurant or in some sort of food service business and move them out of the country because they weren't legal, yeah, that would ruin a lot of vacations. It would ruin a lot of parties. It would ruin a lot of corporate events. There would be untold devastation in that area. Again, those are just the 3 main areas. There are other areas, the small stores, the small gas stations, the small repair shops, the movie theaters, the hobby shops, the local guy who down the street that has a gas station that fixes your car for about half the price of what the dealer wants. All these people are out there. Whether you realize that some of them are undocumented or not doesn't matter. What you need to know is that they're providing a service and you went to them because it cost less. So let's say that we're sitting in Los Angeles right now. We all know what's going on out there, and this morning's news even made a comment that they were going to start raiding out there. And the fear of these people being deported, the fear of these people even being stopped, asked for their papers to prove who they are, is causing people to not come out in public. If they're not coming out in public, they're not going to their jobs, they're not going out to have fun with anybody else. They're stopping everything they do, which is stopping their economic situation, their contributions to the economy, stopping them cold. Government expenditures alone on this is running into the millions. Okay, again, the gross domestic product. It's the bottom line of our country. Just like when you balance your checkbook from everything that you've taken in and spent out, the gross domestic product is the bottom line of the country's checkbook and its expenditures. So I guess if we talk about mass deportations, we're going to be talking about supply shortages, work shortages, the unavailable products. We're going to be talking about significant costs to our country. And if we look at the fact that we haven't got something, plus it's costing us more, plus our government has to spend more money, the net result is a negative. I get that both sides have a view on immigrants. It seems that they're worried about crime, they're worried about the gangs. They're not seem to be worried about or thinking about the people that are actually here peacefully, the ones that go to work and do 2 and 3 jobs, because we the people know that you can't hold down just one job and survive in the economy. Most people out there have a job and a half, maybe 2. What do you think an immigrant that doesn't have papers is doing? He's holding down 2 or 3, maybe even 4 jobs. He hasn't got time to go out and commit crimes. He's busy working, sleeping, trying to feed his family. He's like you and me when we were younger in our economic world, before we met our earning potential. Had to make the money, had to get the second job, had to be able to pay the kids' school, had to buy uniforms, had to buy clothes, had to buy, the kids got to have something, the toys, clothes, the whatever, the new Game Boy. The wife has to have something. You got to take her out to dinner once in a while. You need something. You got to money. If you're busy working 3 jobs, I don't know how you're committing crimes. Yes, I get it that there are people out there committing crimes. I wish there was a magic way that we could all just snap our fingers and be able to tell the difference. We can't. I haven't got a better solution right at the moment. I can't say that everything that the government's doing right now is bad or good. It just isn't pleasant to look at. So with that, I'm going to let you get on with your day. I think it's good to look at the facts. So again, thank you very much for being here. I do appreciate you, every one of you, every day that you're here. Thank you, and have a wonderful night.